All right. Give it a few seconds to queue up the live here, guys. And
I think we're live.
Ready to rock and roll.
It says we're live. We're streaming live.
What's up, guys? How you doing? Hey, what's up? It's Matthew Neer. Welcome to the Facebook live stream tonight. All of you awesome List Leverage members out there tonight. I got my main man, Doug Wellens. You know him if you've come into the lives lately. And then we also have Joel Therien here, the founder of SendShark. And let me just talk about Joel for a second, guys. If you don't know his accolades, if you will, Joel has been in business for many, many years. He's done over $250 million in sales online. He's founded many companies, one of which is SendShark. And the ability to work with Joel on this really has been a great opportunity and an honor to do, not only to have Joel work with us very closely on our email list and your email list here at List Leverage and SendShark and all that stuff, but also because we've done an industry first integration that, as far as I know, has never been done before in the world, where when you buy a SendShark account, it actually preloads over a dozen automated follow-up messages, guys. That has never been done before, and that was all possible because of guys like Joel Therien, Doug, Greg, myself, and us working so hard together to bring this to you guys. And also, one more thing about Joel is that anytime I meet somebody in life that has their business, their body, and their family together, especially on the level that Joel does, is someone to pay attention to. And really, guys, Joel's a next level player and all this stuff. And with all that said, Joel, just want to welcome you to the call and say thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you. Wow, what a nice intro. I appreciate that. You know, somebody's lied about, said something nice about me for a change. No, just kidding. Yeah, it was, you know, when you guys approached me about this, I was just super excited from the beginning, and I just knew it was really going to do well. And, you know, everything about it was just an A+. So thanks for having me on the call.
Yeah, awesome, man. Awesome. Thanks for being here. So you have been a list builder, an email marketer. You own your own data center over there at SendShark, and that was pretty cool. I got the tour last time I was with you over there in Texas. And we can go into the technical stuff a little bit as to why that's so powerful, but more so, let's talk about the power of email marketing and list building in your business.
Sure. I mean, let's start where, you know, I like to try to inspire the newbies that are out there, because they're always coming on board. And, you know, like a lot of people, I didn't understand the power of list building. When I first got started, I started in the web hosting industry in 1997. Matt, you were probably still in diapers back then. I'm not sure.
Yeah, man.
Just kidding. But anyway, you know, I did the definition of insanity. I didn't understand the value of building a list. So I had this little web hosting site up, and back then you would post in forums and you would post on classified ad sites and driving massive amounts of traffic. Now that's I wouldn't say massive, because it was all free, right? We're all doing it on a budget. You didn't have traffic authority back then. You know what I mean? You didn't have a whole lot of places to advertise. So I was sending lots of traffic to my web hosting site. Nobody was buying my web hosting. I'm like, damn it, man. Like, so, and stupid me, I did that for like almost 2 years, you know? And then I eventually invested in my own internet marketing course from Corey Rudel. It was from marketingtips.com. He passed away.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. Very cool.
Yeah, a long time ago. And he talked about the value of reciprocation, the value of building a list, the value of offering some of your knowledge for free. And that changed everything. At that time, I decided to develop an ebook around the top 5 things you need to know before choosing your web hosting provider. And back then, especially back then, and just as much today, but a lot of the web hosting companies, they don't understand permission-based email marketing. So if you start emailing off of a server, especially a shared server, instead of using an autoresponder like SendShark, they pretty much shut you down pretty quickly because it's a knee-jerk reaction. So I was the first person to create an ebook that I knew of on the top 5 things you need to know about your web hosting provider. And of course, in that book, I talked about the value of having a web hosting provider and a data center that understood the value of email marketing. And then I think 10 people, the first 10 people that opted in to get that book, the book indoctrinated them on the value of list building, but also choosing a host that won't shut down your domain name, things like that. And lo and behold, I woke up one morning, you know, checking my database to see if somebody would bought, you know, like 2 years in, I'm like, okay, it's going to be another flat 0 or whatever. And then next thing you know, at 3:30 in the morning, somebody bought web hosting for $9.97. And I was like, out because I was like, wow, I made money while I was sleeping. And of course, the coin operated people in my family, I was jumping all around saying, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. Of course, my mother at the time said, listen, your daughter's on the way and you've been doing this for 2 years. So that's 0.0001 pennies per hour. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't get it. You don't get it. You don't get it. And they're like, we get it. You're broke. Like, you don't get it. So, but needless to say, I took that and I said, okay, how do I take that and how do I replicate it 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times? And within 3 months, I had a part-time job at the time because I was smart enough to know that you have to have a backup plan when you're learning this stuff. So I was working part-time, and then 3 months in, I made my first about $5,000, which was more than I was making obviously from my job. And then the following month, it was like 20,000. So that at that time, I finally went like this. And I told my mom again, I said, I laugh now. She passed away a few years ago, but she was just a uber conservative. She wasn't the negative. She just always wanted to protect me, right? So I said, look, I made $20,000. And I'm like, ha, ha, ha. She's like, you still have to pay taxes on that. I'm like, you really have to do this kind of stuff to me, But needless to say, since then, so 1997, I got started. Probably late 1999, I made my first sale. And everything I've done ever since then has always been focused on generating a lead first, always generating a lead, even now. So
Joel, did you say it took you 2 years to make your first sale?
Yeah, 2 years. 2
years.
Oh
my goodness.
Yeah.
That's
I was
crazy.
one of the dumber, more stubborn ones. But back then, you got to remember, back then everybody was on a dial-up modem, so everything was long-form sales copy. There was no YouTube. There was no places to really get mentorship like people are getting right now in this live. There's none of that. So, and back then, because there was none of that, the courses were $2,000, $4,000, $5,000, to get a course on internet marketing. And you know what? That's the stubborn part of me. Back then I was like, arms crossed like this. Nobody's taking my money. They just want my money. And I mean, if I would have invested way earlier, I would have made a profit way quicker. So I did invest. I think it was close to $3,000 or $4,000 with Corey Rudel. And, as I shared my story, 3 months later, I made 5,000. So it was worth every penny. And yeah, since then, that's still, so what, 20 years later, 21, 22 years later, I still focus on list building first, providing value. And then there's so much more that goes into it after that. You're talking to, I've been watching a lot of your lives and having an upsell pass and big ticket items and stuff like that. And that's very important as well. But it starts with a name and email address, because if you don't get that, and a cell phone number, if you can today, you don't get that, the process never starts,
Yeah, that's huge, man. It's the key piece, right? The ability to follow up with that person and offer a piece of value. Like you said, you gave away an ebook at first to get them sort of indoctrinated to buying web hosting from you. And in today's modern era, we have a lot of that all done for you guys. Really, you just have a page, you send the lead there, and then we have videos all done for you that give people a path to go down. And one thing that is super key that I think a lot of people don't realize is that, and we don't have to go super techie on this, Joel, but just the fact that like you have your own data center and like why that sets you apart from other email service providers as a company.
Well, first and foremost, I've always loved the industry. I love the list building industry. It's where I saw my first success. So I really understand it as a web hosting and a data center provider. So being and owning our data center means that we own the IP addresses. So when you send mail, you're going to send mail through a domain name and an IP address. And inboxing is all about the reputation that's centered around that domain and that IP. So what's nice with us, because we actually own our IP. So the governing body that gives data centers IP addresses or numeric numbers is a company called Arin, ARIN.net. So they govern the IPs, and when you actually own the IP addresses, then all the email service providers like Yahoo, Gmail, AOL, Hotmail, they deal directly with us when there's any issues associated with potential abuse and stuff. So it's kind of nice to be able to do that. When you're with other providers, very often they're renting space in a data center and therefore they don't own the IP addresses. And then you've still got that third party web hosting company that you got to deal with and stuff. So we're all in one in that. And yeah, it sounds a little bit technical, but it really adds a lot of value to what we're doing. So, we really understand the industry. We're way more flexible than most, and not to say we'll still catch the spammers though, because you just can't do that, guys, just letting you know. But it's a wonderful industry. Like, I mean, it's just so beautiful. Build your list, get that list to know, like, and trust you, monetize that list, and take care of that list, and you're going to be golden for the rest of your life, literally. Like, I mean, I can't believe the life I've lived simply because I've always focused just on building an email list. You know, I was always able to take my kids to school. I was always able to, you know, be at the basketball games, football games, whatever. My kids have been, you know, 15, 20 cruises now. You know, they're growing up now. That kind of sucks. They're, you know, 21, 20, 19 years old. It's like, okay, they've got their boyfriends and girlfriends, but it was all centered around building a list, all of it. You know, when you look at Facebook, guys, when you look at Facebook, of course, there's massive data monetization, but it starts with what? You got to sign up with a name and an email address. Why? They want that data. And if you do the same thing, if you replicate the success that you've seen Matt and Doug and Greg and everybody else focus on list building, and that was the first part that got me so interested. I was like, it is hard to build a list. It costs money to build a list. You know, our organic list cost me anywhere from $2.60 to $5 per lead. So if you've got a list of 100,000 people, that can cost you, straight from advertising, from cold lists and cold advertising, $500,000. You know, it's expensive. So when I saw what you guys are doing with the viral pass up system, I'm like, wow, this is really cool, because this really helps new people on a stricter budget to be able to build a good email list.
Yeah, that's huge, man. It's like, it's this idea I've always kind of been kicking around in my mind, because like you're saying, I used to buy, and I still do buy, email traffic by the click, one by one, you know, and that's how I made my first $10,000 a month years ago, is a combination of like buying email ads, building a list, and selling solo ads and affiliate offers and opportunities or whatever, promoting them to my list, and made my first 10 grand doing that. But I always just had this idea, like, if there was just a way that I could turn one lead into just two, I would be able to buy more advertising than anybody else, man. And so what we've done with this is really giving you the ability to potentially turn one lead into thousands.
It's genius. It's pure genius, you know, and that's what got me originally. Go ahead, Doug. Doug's got his hand raised.
One lead into thousands right back here, man. I mean, that was the strongest tagline we've ever come up with. Matthew, I mean, it was phenomenal, right? That's really the genius behind list leverage right there, okay? And if that's what we focus on.
Mm-hmm. And the more you promote it, the more other people build your list.
Yeah.
Oh, wild, man. So it's just, you know,
it's a no-brainer, you know, like, that's why I jumped on it so fast and so hard. And I even told the leaders that I know to jump on it fast, because it was just, there's nothing, you know, people have, most good people, they stay very humble. And I remember the hard days, man. I remember the days of 3 o'clock in the morning, like literally almost bawling my eyes out, because I'm like, fuck, man, I'm, you know, excuse my language, but I'm a year into this and I still haven't made a penny. Maybe my mom's right. Maybe my dad's right. Maybe this isn't for me. But, you know, then you'd wake up the next day a little bit more hungry and go, no, I can do this. I can do this, you know? And so it's, yeah, I'm very passionate about helping those new people see some level of success very quickly. And you can't, when other people are building your list, because it is a challenge, you know, it's wonderful. It's amazing. It's great.
Joel, you got to tell the people though, I mean, you're here. I mean, hearing that story of the tenacity that you've got, you know, there's so many new people that have just joined List Leverage. They might have gotten here for the very first time in their entire lives in a biz op. They've never seen it. They've never done it. They're here. Doing something that's going to get them. You got
to be realistic first, guys. So I still see it today. Professional engineer just lost his job. He's taking home or netting $5,000 a month. Hey, can this replace my income? No, it can't. Can it someday? Yes. Is it going to do it today? No. You cannot make good business decisions under financial stress. So the key is a backup plan. So I know Bob Parsons personally, who was the founder of GoDaddy. He started in his basement. I wish I had pictures, but I started in my basement with 2 servers as well, connected to a T1 connection, you know, but I didn't do pictures back then because I was like, oh my God, if people really, you know, people would call. It's funny because we were doing web hosting out of my basement, and people would call and go, you know, hey, I just, you know, they got my ebook, they got all ready, they got a question. I'm like, yeah, this is GVO. We're actually a company called Kiosk in Canada, but I was like, okay, this goes. They're like, is this a CEO? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, wow. I'm like, yeah, but in the back of my mind, I'm also the secretary. I'm also the data monetization guy. I'm also the tech support agent. But, you know, I just didn't tell them those things, you know, but but yeah, that you have to, guys, if you're brand new, your basic bills absolutely have to be covered first. And you also have to have a certain amount of income to put back into your business. You just have to, you just have to. And that's what allowed me to have the tenacity, because my back wasn't against the wall going, oh my God, my mortgage is due tomorrow, or my kid needs baby formula or whatever. That was covered. And it's very, very important, because I see people come into this industry and it's getting worse and worse and worse with unrealistic expectations that if you're brand new, you're going to make $5,000 tomorrow. It's just not doable. Where you see, and again, I like to be brutally honest with people, where you see someone like Matt, promote a new offer and make 10 grand, 20 grand, whatever, it's because there's a backstory associated with the list he's built up until that point. And so that's what I loved about this, building your list, helping you promote, it builds your list, you keep promoting, it builds your list even more, and you're helping other people build their list as well. And it is all about the list. That's it. That's all,
It's so funny you say that, because I was talking to some old friends of ours today, and, getting into this industry in 2004, Joel, that's when I first started in internet marketing, right? I'd been in direct sales and network marketing for 30 years, but the internet thing just came about in 2004. And I really never spent the time to build my own list, never really understood the email marketing side of it. I was always selling somebody else's deal. And we were taught 100 new leads every week, get 100 new leads, get 100 new leads, and do nothing with the ones that said no. Just throw them in the trash can and you get 100 brand new leads,
Yeah.
And that's what it was, man. I mean, it was just that kind of a revolving door,
Yeah. And so once you have your list building in your own list, the key to monetizing that list is putting yourself out there. So again, a lot of other people think, okay, I build my list, but I'm not going to really tell my back. And the more vulnerable you are, guys, like I'm being vulnerable that I was dead ass broke. It took me 2 years. I was really dumb. I didn't make any money. The more people will identify with you, because they identify with the emotion associated with what you're doing. So I think it was Matt or somebody else, but I've been in Texas now. So we outgrew our data center in Canada. We moved to San Antonio, Texas. I've been here since 2007. And since 2007 alone, I've done over 7,500 videos.
Wow. So, 7,000 videos, man.
Yeah. 7,500 videos. And those are designed so that people can see who I am, and it's amazing when you put yourself out there. It just adds to that trust. And so that's, brutally honest again, why was I number one in the first week? Because not only do I have a list, I have a list of people that feel like, I get it all the time. Dude, you feel like you're my brother, my sister, my aunt, my uncle, my cousin. Like, I know I don't know you, but I know you. And it's funny, it happens more and more. I was walking out of the airport, flying back from California the other day, and there was just a guy cleaning the parking lot. And I was just walking to my car, and the guy's like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah. Are you Joel Therien? I'm like,
wow, too cool, man. Too cool.
Like, oh my God, can I have a picture? Like, it's very humbling, but if I didn't the point being, if I didn't have those videos out there and stuff like that, then people wouldn't know who I was. You know what I mean? So there's the building the list is just the beginning. You know what I mean? And of course, you got to watch your conversions, because like you said, Matt, if you can turn one lead into two, let's say on average, it costs you $3 to get a lead. Because if traffic's, let's say $1.25 for a click, and you've got a 33% opt-in ratio, you're looking at $3-4 per lead. Well, if you can change that into 2 leads, well, now each lead's only $1.50. You turn it into 3 leads, 75 cents a lead. And that's what really intrigued me about the list leverage, is it's truly leveraging other people to build your list for you. And nothing's better than a free, and by the way, folks, be careful, because just because it's a free lead, don't think that it's not a high quality lead, and don't treat it as such. Treat it with dignity, respect, put yourself out there. And that's the key to success, really.
Yeah. That's one thing we've been hammering on here, is like, when you guys get leads, you need to be treating, just your first few leads, 10, 20, 100 leads or whatever it is, begin treating them as if, you've got a massive audience, and you're communicating to them as if you would 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever it's going to be. But especially in those early days, like the communication you make and the tools we have available to you to like make video like this Facebook Live, this doesn't even exist just a couple of years ago, or YouTube these days, that
exactly.
in-person connection that you can make with people is really cool these days.
Yeah, it's very, very important to be able to do that and treat people with respect and dignity. Like when I look at our open rates or our click rates in different emails, I try to visualize, like, so if we have 10,000 opens on an email, I try to visualize 10,000 people in an audience. And so, let's bring it back down. Let's say your list is 500 people and you have 100 opens. Rather than just going, oh my God, it's only, try to visualize those 100 people that took the time to read your email. And that's really important. I remember my first days of webinars, I'd have 10 people on a webinar, but it was, and so very often I didn't make any money because if your conversions are there, I do a webinar with 10 people. It's the consistency that you got to put into it. But eventually, obviously, it got to the point where, we can have, I remember my largest webinar to date now was 3,200 people on one webinar. That's where you start getting into the $300,000 and $400,000 in revenue off one webinar. But it takes consistency, it takes time, and it takes, again, that the backup plan when you're at the start is so important, because if you're back against the wall, you've got mortgage due, food, whatever the case may be, you're going into foreclosure, you just can't make good decisions. I don't know of any successful entrepreneur who didn't realistically start off with a decent budget, but had some sort of income coming in. Now, the backup plan could be your wife, it could be somebody else, it doesn't really matter, but that backup plan is very important. I see in particular with SendShark and other things that we do too, 2 days in, I haven't made any money. And I'm like, I go look and they signed up 2 days ago, or even, I'm like, come back and see me in 6 months or a year. You know what I mean? Like it won't take you that long to make money, but you've got to put the work in. Everybody's got to put the work in,
Absolutely.
I was gonna talk about the fact that not only are we getting leads for free here, but we're also getting team members added to our team line. Okay. Which is an exponential equation that I don't think anybody's really thought of what that could really do to your revenue. But when we took a look at what Eric Bechtold did in TA with that $1 million in, the time frame he had going on, and then we grabbed a hold of the data and we said, wow, Eric, had you had this compensation plan, you'd have made 3 times the money for the exact same amount of work.
Yeah, exactly.
And that leverage is just huge.
It's massive. It's absolutely massive. It's this is something that's going to be around for long term, and it's going to grow. And those who take action now are going to see very large lists out of it. Just, it is what it is. Call a spade a spade. There's very few things that I do outside of our own network, and it's amazing.
Well, Joel, I mean, just think about this though. How many BizOp friendly ESPs do you know?
None.
One. You.
Yeah. That's a huge point too. I
mean, seriously, one.
And yeah, it's a massive piece. Joel sort of has. Actually, if we want to get into that a little bit about that, Joel, is to how you got into network marketing and why you decided to tie that into a lot of the businesses that you have, because you have, as far as I know, the only hosting program with an MLM style affiliate program, and the same with SendShark.
Well, I got started in network marketing when I was 18 with a company called Creations. They were self-help cassettes that you would put in your car and stuff. And the company went bankrupt. And well, let me back up a bit. I got up to a level of success where I was seeing about $2,000 a month in revenue. And at 18 years old, that's not too shabby. But when the company went bankrupt, the people that I was associated with blamed the distribution model. Like, guys, like, companies go in and out all the time, whether it's a lawn care business, a restaurant, doctors, lawyers, dentists, 99% or whatever, 90% of businesses in their first 5 years won't make it. So they blamed the distribution model. I didn't. And I always loved it. And then, here's something else I share too. I laugh with my mom a lot about my mom. And obviously she was one of my best friends, but a lot of people, my mom said, you need to go to college. So I went to college. I did a degree, or almost finished a degree in cardiac rehab. I worked in a hospital for a while. I couldn't stand it. I quit after 6 months, didn't tell my mom for 2 years. And that was the 2 years that I wasn't making any money. But you're going to have those struggles too, guys. Like, I mean, I'm just trying to set in motion, you're going to come to the event in Atlanta. You're going to be there. You're going to be energized because it's all like-minded people. And then you go home and sometimes the energy is not quite the same from people that you want it from the most. And here was the epiphany for me. So during that time where I was starting off in internet marketing and stuff, I was doing the personal training for a billionaire in Ottawa, Canada. His name was Michael Copeland. He was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. So I would go to his house. His house is 35,000 square feet, not 3,500, 35,000. So he's got a gym in there and everything.
House.
And what I found, is because of my mom's conservative nature, it didn't make her negative, but conservative. Like if it was outside the box, if it was outside of the military or outside of the government or outside of, a PhD in university, it just wasn't a good idea. And so I would share my ideas with him and he's like, man, that's like fantastic. And then I would share the same idea with my mom. And by default, it's like, oh, well, I don't think that's a good idea. You don't know anything about email, that kind of stuff. And I just realized one day, not that, I grew up in a middle income. My dad had a good business. My dad would have been more, my dad retired with a few $1 million, which is good. He would have been more wealthy, but my mom kind of kept the chain on him. But what I realized was 35,000 square foot home, 3,000 square foot home where I was raised. Like, why am I listening to my mother? And I'm only listening to my mother because she was meant so much to me. So here's the other thing, folks. You're going to come to the event. You're going to get excited. You're going to be around like-minded people. When somebody gives you advice, ask yourself one question. And that question is that person who's giving me the advice living the lifestyle that I want to live? Ooh. So it could be a car salesman. Could be a car salesman who's making $400,000 a year, but he's working 80, 90 hours a week. And then it could be another person who's living paycheck to paycheck. And so when people are giving you advice, look at their lifestyle. And so when I looked at this billionaire, I'm like, man, I want to live like this. Like, there's no doubt about it. And so that's what really made me realize that we all want validation from the people that we love the most, but it's not necessarily going to happen. It doesn't make them good or bad people. A belief is a fact that's a perceived fact to that person. So if somebody does day trading and they make $2 million and another person does day trading and they lose their shirt, well, the guy who loses their shirt is going to say, you're never going to want to do that. And the guy who's made lots of money is going to say, that's the only best way to make money. There's nobody right or wrong here. It's based on perception and belief. A belief is not a fact, right? So that's the thing. And there was another saying that somebody said, if somebody else has done it, then why can't you? It's that simple. If somebody else
how I got started in this industry. That's literally how I got started in this industry, Joel, right there.
Yeah.
I clicked onto a website. I saw a banner. I saw this guy with his wife and a kid and 3 cars and a mansion. And he was 29 years old. And I said, crap, if he could do it, I could do it.
Yeah, that's it.
I never read his website. I left my name and number and left and walked away.
Yeah.
And he called me up 3 weeks later. I got started. 6 months later, I was making 50 grand a month. Boom.
See, you were way smarter than I was. It took me 2 years to make a sale for $9.97.
Well, there's a little bit more to that story, but I'll tell you when you get to Atlanta.
But and it's still centered around list building. That's it, Matt. I still just do list building. Everything we create is around list building.
That piece you said is so huge, man, that, you look at who you're learning from, right? And do they have the results and the lifestyle that you want to pursue in your life? Is that the right path for you, right? And also, man, I'm curious, like, what your vision for SendShark is into the future, because competitors in competing email service providers are massive, massive companies, and I just see an opportunity for you to really grow SendShark, not just here, but just in general as like a very, very big platform. I'm curious as to your thoughts on where you're going.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't want to divulge all the features, but the work is never done in a software platform. In order to be the best, you got to continue to innovate and add new things all the time. So we're constantly adding new things. We're doing things that complement to the email marketing side. Like we're working on some SMS technologies and stuff like that. That's why we call it SendShark, not something email, because we know that direct response, especially today, is not just, although email marketing is very effective, there's other forms of marketing. So we're working on some stuff with Facebook Messenger. We're working on some stuff for SMS technology to be integrated into SendShark and stuff like that. And still structured and catered around the newbie though. The other thing that I've learned over the years is sometimes you can be too feature rich. And if you're too feature rich and somebody logs in that's fairly new, it can become very daunting and very stressful. And then of course, their gut reaction is, oh, this isn't for me or whatever. So the key is, actually it was Russell Bunson when he was talking about the direction of ClickFunnels. We do the same thing. We look at the features that we have. And if there's only 1 or 2% of people using those features, we'll leave those features there, but we want to focus on the things that people need and want. So we're always looking at the data at the back end. What are people using the most and what do they need to see the most? Because again, the one thing I think I've been really good at is always listening to our customer base on what they specifically want. And a lot of newbies want a simple platform. So, of course, the newest of newbies is going to go, oh, it's not that simple, but that's the part that turned me on extra special with List Leverage was the videos that you did, Matt, in the back office. After I watched those, I was like, oh my God, this guy's so talented on making A to Z look so simple. And it is simple, but I'm not the guy that I don't have a lot of attention to detail. It's like I see point A and I want to get to point B, but what's in between, I just don't see. I just get to point B. I'm a horrible teacher. I'm self-taught. But when I watch those, I'm like, oh man, this is perfect.
Hey, well, thanks, man. We worked really hard to make those.
Oh, you spent years, I think, on just those videos. You know what I mean?
Not years, maybe close to a year if you count all the scripting and all that stuff. But we just try to lay it out simple as possible and just hey, this is it. I kept going over them and over them and okay, cut this. Is it simple now? Boom, and there it is. So, Joel, you're a big piece of that, man. Your integration with SendShark makes that so easy, man. Step
much easier. Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah. Well, again, that's the fun part about working with people who've been in the industry for a while. They understand that the simpler you can make something for your end customer, the better it's always going to be. So we did the integration as deeply as we could. And yeah, it's made a big difference for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's something I talk about a lot in our live streams we've been doing here is the setting up of an autoresponder, right, is a point of failure for people, because they have to do work, right? They have to go in there, they have to write the email copy, whether they have to write their own and give them some swipe copy, they have to get their affiliate links and link them up, and it's just there's stuff that you could do that you could have a space in the URL and it could screw the whole thing up and you'd never know. And you're wondering why it's not working. And it's just a very small little tiny error. You'd never know. But because, that's why we're so grateful to work with you, man, is that you've made that, working with us as so simple, man. It's done for you. They're preloaded.
It literally is done for you. The whole follow-up series is done for you. The campaigns are done for you. And that's the key to people's success, because here's the difference. When people first come in, they might be very intimidated, very nervous. But when they see a positive result, it might be their first. I've seen a lot of people who go saying, oh my God, my first sale. This is so cool. And that positive reinforcement allows people to dig deeper in themselves, to start treading water on their own and doing a few things on their own. You know what I mean? But when you first come in, even putting a merge tag into an email can be very, very scary for people that, they just never hit the send button. But here's the other thing, folks, is perfection creates procrastination. Okay. There's a lot of my emails, I did a spelling error or whatever. I'm like, oh, damn it. And yeah, there'll be the holy grail of people going, that's unacceptable. You spelled now wrong, but the most of people go, it's no big deal. So don't let perfection create procrastination, and don't have analysis paralysis as well. Some people just sit there and analyze. And, you've got to take massive imperfect action. We're human beings, guys. And here's the other thing. People who criticize hurt people. When people are frustrated with themselves, they tend to go and hurt other people. We do a lot of Facebook advertising on the health and wellness side, and I'm either a juice monkey or the females that are doing it are anorexic slobs. It's so, again, I'm just putting that out there, folks. I was actually going to do my own Facebook Live on just, if you've got haters, you're doing something right too. You know what I mean? I mean, you guys all have haters, you know? And so those are the other things you have to come to expect, that it's not as long as you know you're doing well in this world, as long as you know you're doing good and providing value in this world, that's all that matters. What everybody else thinks doesn't matter. So if I have a bad couple spelling errors in an email, and it almost happens on a daily basis, so what? At least it got done. Folks, just get the work done, put the action in, because perfection. I remember reading, I'll say one last thing, when the first iPhone came out, I remember reading an article on Steve Jobs, and they're under a time constraint. So he had certain apps that he knew would freeze the phone. So he had 6 iPhones that all looked the same behind the counter, so that if he wanted to show the map app, but if it froze on one, it was already loaded on another, you know? So again, he knew it wasn't going to be perfect, but he did it anyway. And that's the key to success as well. Just massive imperfect action, massive action, a continuous education, massive passion is what you got to have. Everybody who's on this webinar has immediate action and a continuous education from the right people. Those are the key 3 things to your success, because I've also seen people who've got massive passion, but they don't have the right mentorship. So they're taking that energy and they're going down a wrong path, and you're like, oh my God, like that's just not going to work. And then they get frustrated because they put all this effort, all this work into something, and it doesn't work for them, And that's why you want to get to events as well, folks. Like, I mean, I am by far not the smartest person in the room, but when you get collectively with smart people, then they start giving you advice based on experience rather than gut instinct. Like I used to say to my mom, I want to start a web hosting company. And she's like, oh, that's not a good idea. And I'm like, well, why that's not a good idea? Well, because I just don't think it's a good idea. She couldn't give, it was just a gut instinct, right? So yeah. That's the thing is you've got to have, in these lives, I mean, the internet is, no offense to everybody, it's easier now than it was back then, because again, in 1997, there was a dial-up modem. It took 20 minutes just to get online in the first place. And then everything was just long form copy that you had to read. You couldn't at a moment's notice learn from these live events like this and stuff like that. And so that's the other aspect too. I mean, I'm way off target about list building, but it's just
it's all good, man.
Components that people, I love to manage people's expectations so that a year from now, people come to me and go, man, you changed I was going to give up, but I was listening to what you had to say and what it took you to get to that level of success. And I'm glad I didn't give up. And every day I'm like, there was 1,000 times I'm like, fuck it, excuse my language, but that was the truth. Fuck it. I'm done. I'm fucking done. I'm going home. And then I'd wake up the next day and go, okay, let's try again. You know what I mean? But when I think back now, if I would have given up, wow, it would have been a disservice to myself. And we still have
everyone else that you've helped along the way, can you imagine?
We still have 300,000 customers right now. I wouldn't have those customers, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't be blessed to help those people. And so, yeah, think about it that way too, folks, is not only letting yourself down if you quit, but you're letting everybody else down. That it's a potential direction that your life could be just absolutely.
Yeah, you don't know how far like that ripple can go to people, right? Like it's like the X Factor, man. It's not trackable until you have the day where somebody comes up to you and is like, oh my God, like that product you made or that video you did or whatever it is changed my life. It kept me in the game. And like, that's happened to me 1 or 2 times at a live event. And I'm just like, wow, that is unreal. I can't even imagine.
And it just hits you right in the heart to realize that the ripple effect that you have, and it's very weird. I was sharing with my kids, like it happens to me just locally here 2 to 3 times a week. I was in HEB, which is a local grocery store, and a lady approached me asking if she could have her picture with me because she's following my Instagram feed and finds it very motivational. Now, she's not a paying customer, but that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like you're helping people, inspiring people to live a better life. And that's just, it's awe-inspiring,
That's so brilliant, man. That really is.
It's awesome. It's friggin' awesome. You can't ask for a better life. And, here's the other thing that, again, I hope it's not way off topic, but I remember when I first started into sales, I was a little bit afraid to sell, and I was selling for how I transitioned into web hosting is my dad had a conventional advertising business. He had a yellow page company. And even back in 1997, I was like, man, these yellow pages are not going to be around much longer. You could see the transition happening. And so he did, it was baptism by fire. Like, he knew that I was scared to go door to door to door to sell his advertising. So he said, okay, get in the car, let's go. We pull up to a business, and it was an existing customer. He goes, okay, here's a contract, go renew their contract. I'm like, oh, fudge. What do you mean? Just go renew it. But it was the best thing that could have ever happened. He knew that it's just baptism by fire. You know what I mean? Like, just get in there and do it. But here's the mistake that I made. And it really resonated, you know, what we're talking 23 years ago. And so that typically when you sell an ad in a telephone book, it's half down and then half on delivery of the book, right? So I remember the ad was $800, and the guy said, oh, do you want a down payment? And I said, no, that's okay. And so I walked down, and obviously my dad was listening in the background, and he pulled me aside. He goes, and this is exactly what he said. We're French Canadian, so, you know, it is what it is. He's like, do you think our telephone book is a piece of shit? I'm like, no, why? He goes, well, that man offered you money for our book, but you turned it down, which tells me that you think our book is not worth the money. Is it, or is it not worth the money? And I would just froze. I was like, because he was right. You know what I mean? Like, how dare I put down a service that's going to get that guy new customers and not ask for the money? And here's the thing is too, guys, when you believe in what you're doing, it's your moral obligation to sell that product or service without question. Now, if there comes a time where you don't believe in that product and service anymore, that's different. But if you believe in what you're doing and you believe in the products or services has mass appeal to help people, it's your moral obligation to sell it. And understand this, if you're not selling it to them, somebody else is. So it's, don't feel like you're taking the money out of their pocket, because that money is going to be spent elsewhere. If somebody buys my web hosting for 20 or doesn't buy my web hosting for $20, they're going to go to the movies and spend that $20. It's going to be spent anyway. So it's better in your pocket, because the more money in your pocket, the more you can help out other people. And that took me a while to transition from, to realize that, you know, when you're providing something, a monetary exchange of money is absolutely necessary, and it's your moral obligation to do it. You know, I believe in everything that we're doing. I really, really believe in list leverage, and that's why I was big time behind it. You know, so I made $25,000 in commissions in the first week, and you know, people might say, well, okay, that, you know, most people will celebrate that, but some people say, well, you know, isn't that a little bit selfish? No, because that 25,000 would have gone somewhere else anyway. That's the economics of living. If they didn't spend it on me, they would have spent it somewhere else. So guess what? Now I have the liberty of taking those commissions and helping other people if I so choose. Guess what it's doing? It's helping to pay for my daughter's college right now. It's helping my son get off the ground because he's working with me full time. So I'm able to pay him a small salary so that he can learn and carry the torch someday. So that's how you have to look at it, folks, is because, again, maybe not for you, Matt or Doug, but I remember the first time I was selling, I felt a little uneasy about it, you know, but not anymore.
Yeah,
I mean,
same.
I love what I do. So you give me your money. I'll take it anytime, because I know that the value I'm going to provide to you is tenfold what it's worth.
Yeah, I think it's a huge barrier that I had to overcome early in my life. And I was forced to go door to door selling a network marketing opportunity, not knowing anything about sales. I was just a little skater punk kid, you know, didn't even know how to wear a suit and tie or anything, man. Never had a button up shirt or nothing. And my upline quickly threw me into the fire, as you were saying. He's like, all right, go knock on this door and sell long distance to him. I'm like, what? So yeah, it was a hard lesson to learn, but invaluable. And if I didn't do that, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today, you know? So
Absolutely. I agree.
I had the opposite experience. I came out of the womb with a clipboard and a pen in my hand and just kept on going, you know. That was it. My mom and dad were all entrepreneurs, you know, and everybody behind them too, you know.
Yeah, I had the rich dad, poor mom. My dad was an Uber entrepreneur, and my mom came from the military. You know what I mean? Nothing wrong with the military, but again, it's very structured, and you know what you're going to make, that kind of stuff. So it was very, very interesting in our household, to say the least, you know.
Joel, you mentioned, do you remember, I just want to see if you remember, do you remember the first place we met?
I don't know. Was it Affiliate Summit? I'm not sure.
Yeah. You remember,
was it in the washroom or something? Like, I don't know.
No. It just at Harris's Mansion Mastermind party.
Oh yeah, of course I remember that. Yeah.
That was a cool spot, man. Super freaking cool, fun times. But Yeah, it's just, it's a testament to like getting to live events, guys. Like I met Joel at a live event. I think I had been on the GVO leaderboard or something. So we recognize each other. We're like, oh, what's up? Oh, Matthew, oh my goodness, you've been on the leaderboard. Oh yeah, what's up? So we've been making money together years, man. That must have been, I think, 2014 when I first met you. And then several other affiliate summits after that. I just saw you at Las Vegas in at the Cash Network thing where the guy with the crazy hook in his mouth, right? Like,
yeah.
That's
where the picture came from of the two of us from that event.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
You've got to get to events without question. You know what I mean? I go to as many events as I can, and it's invaluable because you're meeting new people all the time, and you never know who's going to be your next JV partner. You know what I mean? Because here's the thing. It's when they say it's lonely at the top, it's not about economics, it's about mindset. So when you get around the right people that, like as an example, Copeland, this billionaire I was training, he loved my energy. And I couldn't figure, because I was a broke college kid, right? I'm like, why does this guy love training with me? Like, why is he so pumped up? Because I would be sharing ideas like crazy, and it fueled his passion as well, So it's really not about the money. Like, my son's dead broke right now. And it's not because he's my son, but I see the passion in his eyes and the things he wants to try. And that fuels me to know that, hey, it's fun. You know what I mean? So lonely at the top is really a mindset. So when you get around like-minded people, it helps get you to the next level, it helps break barriers, it helps you to take massive action. And again, the only thing that I found in my early days is I'd go to these events, I'd come home and I'd tell my mom all about it. She's like, did you get a job yet? I'm like,
That's so great, man.
Well, here, let me share one last little story. So my mom had terminal cancer. About 6 months before she passed, we knew she was going to pass, but you don't talk about it, right? So I was talking to her on the phone, and that past year, we did about $65 million in revenue the past year. And so we were just talking and reminiscing and talking, and she starts to giggle, and I'm like, what? She's like, I need to tell you something. I'm like, okay. She goes, it's ridiculous, but I have to tell you because it's what I'm thinking. I'm like, okay. She goes, now keep in mind, we just did like 65 million in revenue. She's like, I just wish you had a good, stable job. But it just showed what the core, the core belief was. And she's laughing and laughing. And we had like 200 and some employees at the time. And I'm like, Mom. And she's giggling and laughing. I'm like, Mom, the last person that's going to lose their job is me. So I'll have to fire 250 other people before I lose my job, So, but the point being, again, because, you're lucky, Doug, because both your parents emulsified in that. But my dad, I didn't have as strong of a personal relationship with my dad because he was out selling most of the time. So I had the very strong personal relationship with my mother, but she was the one that was always providing the really bad advice, Like I think the week my mom passed, my dad went out and bought 3 condos, really good passive income, because Mom would have never let him do that because that's dangerous. You know what I mean? You don't do those things. So I just share that because I know there's a lot of people who have a very passionate mindset towards really making your own life, and you can do it. But again, make sure that if you are getting advice, sometimes it's from the people you love the most, but it's the worst advice on the planet. And sometimes it's from people you hardly know, but you look at their lifestyle and go, this is what I want. And that's where you grab your advice from,
Joel, it's so incredible. And I'm thinking here while you're telling the story about your mom and dad, this, that, and my mom and dad were like almost the opposite of your mom and dad, right? Where my mom was the ballsy one, and my dad would kind of hold my mom back in a way. And I was reminiscing with Matthew early this morning as we were doing our daily just before we went on. Today's my mom's birthday, and yeah, she, of course, she's in heaven, and she's looking down, and it just she missed the internet, and the grandkids and all that stuff, but it's incredible, like you said earlier, just how much easier it is right now than we all got started back in the day. I mean, Joel, I'll be the first one to say right here, and I'll admit this in live, whatever you want to call it. When I opened up AWeber for the very first time in 2004, that's 15 years ago, okay, it was so clunky that by the end of the third day of trying to plug everything together, I literally closed it, just started crying. I was so pissed off. Like what I got myself into, I could not even imagine, you know.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of money, and I was just in tears. I just couldn't believe
Well, I
it.
was before AWeber. There was something called Postmaster.com, and it was horrible. But anyway, yeah, it's easier now for sure. It's easier
It's
now.
easier, way easier. And you know what? We've given everybody a lot of good reason to come to Atlanta, because we don't want to give you all the everything tonight. We want you to come to Atlanta and get the rest of the stories.
Yeah, and when you come there, guys, just come out of your comfort zone and network with everybody, because the people that'll be speaking there, they're there for you. They're not there for themselves. I mean, what I'll be teaching, I've taught 1,000 times. I'm there to teach people so that they can take it and run with it, you know? So make sure you come and network with us, have a good time with us, all that kind of stuff, you know? So it's important just to get to events, you know?
That's
hey,
awesome.
man, Joel, as a matter of fact, Matthew, let me just tell you, Joel, one more thing, and that is that I remember just thinking how you guys met. It just kind of struck me, and you know, Greg and I met you at an event in Vegas, if you recall.
Exactly.
No excuses, and that was like 2014 or something like that. You know.
Yeah, I remember that distinctly, and you know, we didn't do a lot of business right away, but we started doing business because we did know each other. You know what I mean? Very, very important. My very first event, which helped take my business to the next level, because I'm an introvert extrovert by design. When I first meet somebody, I'm a little quiet, but I warm up fairly quickly. And it was Mike Filsame who was doing an event. I'm like, oh, Mike, I can't go. He's like, get your ass here to Long Island. And I'm like, okay. And there I met Michael Chaney, and I met Stephen Pierce, and I met Brad Fallon, and I met Frank Kern. And yeah, like it was invaluable. You know, all those people became customers, you know, and JV partners. So it's really, really important. And then, of course, I met Matt. And then, of course, I met Anthony Morrison at a midget stripper party in Vegas. I hope he's not watching this.
This is a PG show, no midgets.
Well, it was somebody's bachelor party. But needless to say, you know, I'd watched his infomercial on TV. I was very impressed with what he was doing. And he's been a great customer for years now, you know, so that would have not happened had I not met with people in person. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's important. Most of my true long-term JV partners, definitely I've had a beer with or shook their hand, met them in person. Very, very few people that I've done long-term business with have I not met, for sure. You know?
Right.
Yeah, same here, man. Like getting to the event you just never know. You never know what's going to happen. Like there's going to be somebody there you meet, and like you guys shake hands, you connect, you vibe in a new way, and it's just going to go cool places for you.
Yeah, and the key is you never know. Like I remember one time it made me feel really badly. So I was on the Marketers Cruise, which is what Mike Filsame does. And so, of course, being on the Marketers Cruise, I sent an email to our list to come on the Marketers Cruise, meet with us. And so there was one gentleman, I guess I was a real big fan of his, but having my kids on the cruise and all that kind of stuff, we didn't connect. And he was so upset. And the point, and I felt bad that I actually called him after the cruise, said, hey, how can I help you? You know, but he was so upset. And I'm like, man, he was so linear focused on just meeting me that there was plenty of other people that could have been his best JV partner, way better than I could have ever been. So when you get to an event, have certain objectives of people you want to meet, but the guy beside you that you may not know now could end up making you millions and millions of dollars. So just network with everybody. That's the key, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, man. There's been that. Yeah, never have like you're saying, have your goals, people you want to meet, but don't force it. Just let it happen organically.
Exactly.
And we're all going to be super friendly with you to hang out, you know, and just have a drink or shoot the shit or whatever, you know, and just chill and get to know you guys and help you get to the next level in your business and in your life and wherever it is that you want to go. So with that said, guys, we can take off if there's nothing else to say here, guys. Joel, if you want to say a final piece here, we can.
No, I'm sorry I didn't get too much into the specifics of list building, you know, because List Leverage is doing it for you. I think you've done an excellent job on the value of list building and how to do it in the members area. I just hope that some people I know, they have their trials and tribulations. So by sharing my story that I wasn't, you know, people only hear the overnight success. Well, that doesn't really happen. You know, it's through consistency and getting around the like-minded people and networking with good people. So I look forward to seeing everybody in Atlanta as well. Like, just get there. That's the important thing.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it's going to be fun. And just real quick to share a little bit of the vision I have for the customers here, Joel, something it might be the first time you hear this, is that You know, as people grow their email lists and whatnot, goodness, sorry about that, guys. Getting
All right. I thought it was my phone going off. It's been going off like crazy anyway, but.
Yeah, one of the visions I have is as people grow their lists and as they get bigger and bigger, I want to start doing like, you know, live mailing trainings where I teach them how to write copy, find an offer in the marketplace and promote that deal or whatever their main option is, their primary company, their favorite affiliate deal, their e-com store, whatever it may be. And just to really teach people like how to do email marketing correctly and use it to make like massive affiliate commissions, man. Because you know we've all done it, and Joel, you definitely know the power of email, man. It's huge. And guys, with that said, Joel, just want to thank you so much for coming to the call tonight, man. And I can't wait to hang out with you in Atlanta. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be super fun. And I can't wait to see what kind of gold nuggets you drop in your speech, man. It's going to be awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Doug and Matthew and everybody else at List Leverage and Greg and the design team and the developers and all that kind of stuff. And without the people listening in, thank you. I look forward to meeting as many of you as I can, you know, get to Atlanta. And yeah, I'm excited to go learn and have a good time at the same time. You know, that's the best part, man. You just go and have fun all the time. You know, it's awesome. So thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody who's watching, or if you're watching the replay, I'll see you in Atlanta for sure. My tickets have been booked already for a week, so I'll be there.
Nice. I love it, man. All right. Thank you, Joel. Thanks, man.
Thanks. Take care, guys. Have a great night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.